What is up, folks? Eternal Angler here. So today I'm be doing a review of the Shimano Curado rod and reel that I bought. You've been following my fishing channel for a while. That I started off with the Curado DC 6-to-1, and recently I just ended up selling that. It went to 8-to-5-to-1. I just kind of prefer the higher gear ratios. For a while there, a few years back, I was getting into chatterbaits, of course using crankbaits, and of course 6-to-1 is a great ratio for all that. But lately I've been just slamming fish both in Florida and up here in Michigan with the jerkbait, and I've been really kind of getting into finesse fishing, using tubes, all types of other jigs like swim baits. And honestly, I really think you get more sensitivity with a bait caster compared to a spinning reel, which, my Shimano Nasky and the Jason Christie rod. I still love spinning. It's still, I have to say, it's my favorite type of rod and reel to fish with. But I have to say that lately, doing tube fishing, you get a lot more sensitivity with a bait caster, and let me tell you why. When you cast out a tube out on Lake St. Clair, you got your hand wrapped around the rod, and of course, you get some sensitivity through the rod, through the guides, these ceramic Fuji guides. But I think when you got your hand palmed around that bait caster, having your thumb right next to that line, you get a lot more sensitivity because that line's going right up to your hand, and you can just feel a lot more. I really like it. It's just sad that it took me this long to grow out of the spinning rod and reel combo and just try out a bait caster. But what helped is having a chip in this reel. It's a great way, even though the DC is a very expensive reel, it's a great way to start off bait casting. It just can help assist you with preventing backlashes, and I ended up going with 20-pound braid, really smooth, the Power Pro. You get a lot less backlashes starting off with braid. I know Air Casting prefers fluorocarbon, the Sniper. That's great stuff. I started off with that. I was just getting way too many backlashes. So I really like the 20-pound Pro braid paired up with this Curado DC 151 XG. The rod I chose was this 7-foot power medium action extra fast Curado rod, and I'm just blown away on the quality of Shimano. I have to say, I did have an SLX rod before that. I stepped on the 2 guides. It was real rough on that day, and I did have some other guides, like one up here pop out and a top guide. What's nice about this Curado rod is the inserts on these guides, really, they're tucked in. The guides are really hardcore. It looks like it's either like aluminum or stainless steel, and it's really tucked in the inserts, seems like, so they don't pop out, especially in the top guide. If you say you nick the ceiling, which I've done already 4 or 5 times in my house, this rod is really built extra tough. And I basically bought the 7-foot. I'll be using basically jerk baits with this, some tubes. I know that Air Casting prefers like a 7.2, but I actually like a flat out 7-foot rod for finesse fishing with the tubes. I just didn't go with the 8-to-5-1 higher gear ratio, just because I've been kind of jerkbait fishing and jig fishing. But I also like it because you can keep the fish pinned. Now, I primarily bass fish with my bass tackle, of course, bass tackle and gear, but I really enjoy catching musky, pike, walleye anytime I hook into them. And so being able to keep the fish pinned with a higher gear ratio, I think you're more likely to land them. I was over at Kent in the springtime using my 6-to-1 DC, and I was just losing one fish and another, both largemouth bass and pike. The pike really scoot through the water pretty fast. If they start coming towards you, you don't have that that line tension, you can lose them. Even those largemouth bass that can't, they fight really well. If they start coming towards you and you don't keep them pinned, you can lose them. So I've been using spinning for a long time, and spinning tends to pretty much use a higher gear ratio. And Northern Mike was kind of surprised when I told him this Shimano Nasky C3000 is 36 inches per crank, because it actually is. And so I matched it up, this inches per crank, with the gear ratio I like in my baitcaster. I just absolutely love it. I mean, if you're primarily a bass fisherman and you're looking to get a rod and reel for crankbait and chatterbait fishing, and another reel for, you know, jigs, jerkbaits, lipless, you kind of want to do that. You want to have a lower gear ratio, upper gear ratio, but I'm just the type of fisherman, I don't know what it is, I like a higher gear ratio. I like keeping those fish pinned. Anytime I want to scoot down to like a chatterbait or crankbait, I can just reel slower, because that's what I've been doing with my spinning reels throughout the years, using spinner baits, crankbaits. I'm just used to that format. It's just, some fishermen prefer having all types of rod and reel combos and gear ratios for each specific lure. I'm just the type of fisherman, I like buying a setup that covers a wide variety. And just, I probably could have went with that medium. I think it's a 7:4 gear ratio with the DC, but I just wanted to match it up with the Nasky. And what's the thing about this Nasky is it's a lot wider crank compared to the DC, which is a lot, you know, smaller crank using a baitcaster. So it's all what you like, you know, it really is. I'm just saying that the point I'm getting at is you want to try out all types of different rods and reels. Go to the store, see which ones you like. Start to realize if you're a multi-species fisherman, if you're just primarily a bass fisherman, if you're just looking to get a rod and reel combo that covers all types of sorts of bases. Now, some people could say that a lower gear ratio could cover still jig fishing, but honestly, I was losing bass left and right because I couldn't keep those fish pinned on Lake St. Clair, such as a smallmouth bass. They move through the water pretty fastly, so if you're not keeping that line tension tight, you're gonna lose them. That's what I think, that's what I've experienced. You guys, you know, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. You know, when I went down to Florida using that Daiwa 4000 combo, I had people asking me, was this a good setup for you, you know, fishing both freshwater and saltwater for largemouth bass and for snook? I told them, well, you actually could do that. You know, some fishermen don't have the money to buy like a lower gear ratio, upper gear ratio, a smaller bass rod, a bigger bass rod, you know, for bigger fish, smaller fish, all that stuff, and they just want an all-around good rod and reel combo for multi-species, and technically that's what I kind of like doing. So, you know, each of their own, it's all what you like. I know Air Casting, he really has a rod and reel for every type of lure there is, but if you're short on cash, I mean, personally, I like the higher gear ratio. That's what I like going with. Again, if I'm gonna be throwing like a spinner bait like this, well, guess what? I can just reel it a lot slower. And if you really want to slow it down, well, you can stop it and then let it sink to the bottom, then reel it a lot slower. There's things you can do to basically adapt so you kind of, you know, can get that lure to move a lot slower through the water. It just, again, it's all what you like. I'm sure people are going to argue with me in the comment section down below. You can't use an 8 to 5 to 1 with a chatterbait and all spinner bait and crankbait. Dude, I've been doing it for years with my spinning rod and reel, so it is what it is. You can actually, like Northern Mike will say, you can ruin some rods and you can ruin reels if you're doing this and cranking it real fast. But Shimano, this stuff is built pretty heavy duty, so all what you like. You know, it's crazy because using my Shimano Stratic. It's actually 40 inches per crank musky fishing, and I completely understand if you're going to throw double 10s in a bucktail, you do need a higher or a lower gear ratio for doing that, because I've thrown that with my Stratic C5000 has 40 inches per crank, something like that. You do need a lower gear ratio, but again, it's all what you like. Oh look, there's a fish right there, a nice little perch. But anyways, check out the beautiful sights over here in this river, man. But anyways, that's basically the review I have for you guys today of my Curado rod and reel combo. I hope you guys like it. One dude already said he had a similar Curado DC and rod and reel combo. I'm sure he had a different rod. They have all types of different Curado rods to choose from. I got this at Sportsman's Direct. I just really like it, man. So I'm happy with this combo. Let me know what you guys think down below. You think I'm crazy using 8 to 5 to 1? This is just insane. It should just be used for punching. But that's what I like, dude. That's really what I like.